Hi, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another astrology recording from me. Before I start on today's video, if you're interested in a personal consultation, please email me at the email written in the video description. And also, if you like the video, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you will see when I post a new video. So today I want to talk about Mars conjunct Mars in Synastry. It is, again, something that I wanted to talk about for a long time. Unfortunately, there is no way to get examples of famous people on this one. I haven't found any, but I have seen it in Synastry charts that I have analyzed for people that I know. Various requests that I've had, and I've also experienced it myself. And I really wanted to talk about it because I think it is a sometimes underestimated and overlooked factor in Synastry, which points to quite a considerable amount of compatibility in a relationship and attraction. So, Mars conjunct Mars in Synastry. Why is it so important? Why do I think it is so important? One of the things that I've noticed is that from the beginning, the male in the relationship, or the person who is the male part in the relationship, will be very drawn to the female if they have a Mars-Mars conjunction between their charts. And the reason I think this is, it took me a while to really think about it, but I've seen it so many times, and I've seen it usually where in relationships where the male is just smitten with the woman from the beginning, but like not smitten in the way that you would expect from, let's say, Moon Venus or Moon Mars. I mean Mars Venus or Mars Moon Synastry aspects in a totally different way, but they're like smitten in the sense that there is just this sense of this woman was made for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and usually the man in this conjunction is really in love, falls in love first with the woman, or maybe if you can't say falls in love, at the very least is very attracted to the woman, and is very likely to make the first step in a relationship. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it with a college friend of mine, a guy friend who actually talked to me about the great unrequited love of his life. And when I did their charts, I realized that they had this Mars-Mars conjunction. And, you know, in the rest of their charts, they also had a few other aspects like Moon Square Mars and stuff like that, but really overall, in terms of strong aspects, this was probably the strongest. It was certainly the only conjunction between their charts, so definitely very poignant in their relationship, in their interaction. And the reason I think this happens is because when you think about it, really, Mars in a female's chart shows the Animus. So it shows her hidden masculine side of her psyche. So, like, this goes back to, and I've mentioned it before, Jung's psychology and the idea that every woman has an Animus, or like a male side that she tends to project on the men in her life, and every man has an anima, or a female side, that he will tend to project on the women in his life. And for a woman, the animus is shown by the masculine planets in her chart. So Mars in particular, but also Jupiter and Sun to some extent. Sun is more like the father figure, so it doesn't necessarily point so much towards potential romantic partners, but Mars is the boyfriend, quote unquote, archetype in a woman's chart from the Vedic perspective. And why the boyfriend and not the husband? Because Mars is said to be, Mars, think about it, is the bad boy archetype, the rebel without a cause, the soldier, the warrior, the very animalistic side of masculinity. So Mars in a woman's chart tends to show the kind of man that she is attracted to, but Jupiter shows the husband archetype, or the kind of man that she goes towards when it comes to long-term relationships or building a family. Sometimes they are conjunct, in which case they will show that a woman tends to eventually marry her boyfriend. So, yeah, one example of that, like I've mentioned this before as well, one example of that is Angelina Jolie, who has Mars-Jupiter conjunction in her chart. But this was a parenthesis. So the Animus, right? So when you think about it, when you have Mars in a woman's chart conjunct Mars in a man's chart, what it means is that the woman's archetype, the masculine archetype, really matches the man's self-image of what he is as a man. So a man instinctively sort of feels like this woman was made for him, kind of like in the Bride of Frankenstein sort of way. Like, even though the woman may not see it at first, like, certainly when it comes to, this Mars to Mars things, it will also show, a certain attraction on the part of the woman. But it will not necessarily really hit her as hard as it hits him at the onset of the relationship. But the man, on the other hand, will be like, wow, like, where have you been my whole life? You know what I mean? Like, he will just be like, having this vibe of like, wow, this woman is my match, this woman is my, in a sense, it's almost kind of like in a weird, sibling-like energy, right? Because Mars, regardless of how well you own it, like in a woman's chart, maybe she will own her Mars, maybe she will totally project it onto the men in her life. But a lot of the times these days, women tend to own their Mars energy, at least partially, because we live in, feminist times where women are encouraged to express their masculine side, so they don't have to, like, express their masculine energy through the men in their lives. But, so when you think about it that way, Mars shows, like, it shows people's drives, it shows people's, everything that makes them just get up in the morning, basically. It shows your basic passions in life, your ambition, your sexuality. It shows your literal physical body, physical stamina, the actual, level of fitness that you have, your interest in fitness, everything to do with the physical body, everything to do with how you go about achieving the things that you want in life. It shows the basic passions of a person. So when you think about it, this conjunction shows a great deal of attraction and a great deal of compatibility as well, because imagine how simple it is, to feel like you in a relationship want the exact same things as your partner. And this is one of the things, obviously it will vary because Mars can be in different houses, so they may not want exactly the same things, but being in the same sign at least, which according to Vedic astrology is a conjunction, even if the planets are 20 degrees apart. In Vedic astrology, if two planets are in the same sign, they are in a conjunction. Obviously, if the conjunction is within 10 degrees or less, it's that much more powerful and intense. And then in Vedic astrology, you also have to consider nakshatras, because nakshatras or lunar mansions can add different nuances to the conjunction. So, like, if you have, let's say, for instance, in the sign of Taurus, you can have Kritika nakshatra, which is in the sign of Taurus, and you can also have Rohini nakshatra in the sign of Taurus, and I think there's, like, possibly a third one, I'm not sure. So there will be a difference, like if you have two people having Mars conjunct Mars in the same nakshatra, in Kritika for instance, or if you have one of them in Kritika and the other in Rohini. For instance, it will give different nuances. But all in all, regardless of the nakshatra, regardless of the house placements, if you have Mars in the same sign, it will show a great deal of mutual attraction and compatibility. And for a man especially, this kind of relationship tends to really draw them in, because it makes them feel like this is it, this woman is my match, and they will just be, there will be this feeling of sibling rivalry as well, to some extent. Like, that's one of the dangers of this sign. It's like, on the one hand, you want the same things, you understand each other very well, and you will be attracted physically to each other. You energize each other by simply being around one another. But on the downside, it can also show a hint of, sibling rivalry, because obviously if you both go for the same thing, at some point you will, have to compete with each other. Which doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, I mean, you have to look at the whole Synastry thing. It could be a good thing. It could be that you push each other to be better, like if you're talking about, let's say you have the same hobbies, or you work at the same place, you can really push each other to get better and to learn more. It will be unlikely that Mars-Mars conjunction actually degenerates into some kind of unhealthy competition. That will be more likely if you have like Mars square Mars or Mars opposite Mars. But when you think about it, I think another issue that I wanted to talk about is these kind of aspects, like planet-to-planet aspects, they tend to sort of be overlooked in the majority of interpretations, which I think is a bit of a mistake on the part of, let's say, I don't know, most astrologers, or like most sites that I have come across, at least, they tend to really overlook this planet-to-planet aspects. Like, you hear a lot of, male planet to female planet aspects, like Mars to Venus, Mars to Moon, or Sun to Moon. And these aspects are the ones that are getting all the attention and all of the focus. And yeah, sure, they are important, but when you think about it, it's equally important, if not even more important, to have compatibility between the same planets. Because think about it this way, like I said, Mars is your drive, your passion, your modus MO, your modus operandi, your basic way of operating. So if you have like let's say two people have like Mars conjunct Venus, they have Moon conjunct Sun, and they have all these compatible aspects, which are great, but let's say they have like Mars signs in totally different placements. Like, let's say one of them has Mars in Gemini, the other one has Mars in Scorpio. These two signs form a quincunx, which means that they have absolutely nothing in common. So imagine that, like, no matter how many compatible aspects you may have, like, you could have Mars conjunct Venus, you can have Sun conjunct Moon, but if you have your Mars in fundamentally incompatible energies, there will always be a sense of frustration there, because your ways of operating are fundamentally different. You're gonna be like aliens to each other. And you can function very well, let's say, from a romantic point of view. Like, if you have Mars conjunct Venus and you have like Mars quincunx Mars, you will still be great as a romantic couple, but you won't have that sense of like being, united together and being a team, like two soldiers on the battlefield, as you tend to have when you have like Mars-Mars conjunction. It will be like the sense of camaraderie, like what do you call it, like brothers in arms, sort of, that sort of thing. Which, I guess one of the reasons why it's not really talked about is because it may be seen as, a purely masculine interaction, so it's not in itself, which is kind of true. I mean, it's not necessarily romantic in the classical sense, but that does not mean that it doesn't breed a lot of passion and a lot of attraction. And I actually have seen this, breeding long-lasting attractions. Again, particularly on the side of the male. I'm not really sure, like, if it's just the male, I would have to analyze more. I don't know why that happens, or at least in the examples that I've seen, it's more like the man in the relationship is very attracted, and the woman, it's not like necessarily the woman doesn't feel the same way, but the woman is, would need to have probably more aspects in the synastry to actually feel just as intense. But yeah, I mean, this is my basic interpretation. I think that, the man in question just recognizes this woman as his match, as his match in energy, and, because it's like, literally, like, the key fits into the lock, if you know what I mean. Like, if a woman's masculine side matches the man's masculinity, it's like obviously going to breed a lot of attraction and a feeling of we belong together, basically. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to say. So again, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos on different topics, please give suggestions in the comments. I would love to hear any feedback. And yeah, and if you're interested in a personal consultation, please email me at the email that I will write in the video description. And thank you.